You are watching the best of The Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of InfoWarsNews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.
We're going to be joined in just a few minutes by Paul Joseph Watson from London, and he's going to be talking to us about what's going on in the Ukraine. We see the IMF smells the problems. They see an opportunity. It's like blood in the water. They're coming in to get them in debt to the bankers. And, of course, we've been telling you, and many others have been telling you, that we believe that this was set up by the bankers in the first place to get them in the sphere and influence of the EU. You know, they might want to watch the debate that's coming up between Nigel Farage and Nick Clegg in the UK. Now, of course, we've talked to Nigel Farage here on the radio show many times. A masterful debater. This guy is amazing, and he goes right to the heart of the EU. He's elected to the EU as an opponent to the EU, and he's the guy who stands up and calls them out on their takeovers of countries like Greece and Italy, where they take out duly elected prime ministers and put in Goldman Sachs bankers. It's just amazing what they're doing in the EU. So before the Ukraine throws itself into the EU basket, they ought to take a look at what's being done in countries like Greece, like Italy, see what the bankers are doing there. And, of course, now the bankers are starting to come in, offering them the lure of money to try to get them under their control, just as they've done the United States and so many other countries. So joining us now is Paul Joseph Watson. Paul, how you doing?
Hi, David. Good to be back.
Great to have you. Now, you want to talk about the IMF, and they're jumping into the water here, offering all kinds of money to the Ukraine people. Just come on in and sign on the bottom line, right? It's like a kid that just graduated from college getting all these credit card offers, right?
It's amazing, David. The situation right now is we've seen the faux revolution stirred up by the West, by the NGOs, by the United States, by Britain. Now we're seeing the counter-revolution, which is being stirred up by Russia and which is centered in the Crimea, the area of Ukraine to the south where Russia has a naval base. So we've basically got a massive arms build-up with Russia preparing fighter jets on combat alert. They've put out statements saying they've got 150,000 troops ready for a drill. Ukraine is warning against that military build-up, as is the United States. We've got deployment of a U.S. aircraft carrier, which was planned in advance, but some are saying it's related to the building tension. And then we've got the fact, and this is the key to this entire story, on Infowars.com, central banker appointed as Prime Minister of Ukraine. 3 weeks ago, the top U.S. State Department diplomat in Europe, Victoria Nuland, was involved in a leaked phone conversation with another top US diplomat, and they were basically plotting the overthrow of the democratically elected Ukrainian government. And the very person that Nuland named in that leaked phone conversation that they would choose to become the new prime minister of the Ukraine, Arseniy Yatsenyuk, is now the new head of the Ukraine. So the very person they named 3 weeks in advance is now in power, proving once again that this was an act of regime change.
Oh, yeah. And it was even more than that, Paul. You know, I had Steve Pachinik on the Nightly News, and I talked to him about that phone conversation that supposedly was just amazing tradecraft, and the American administration said, I just can't believe that the Russians would listen to our phones like that. And Steve Pachinik said, that was the phoniest thing you've ever heard of. The fact that they would do this on an open line, they wanted the Russians to know this. They wanted the world to know this. It was an in-your-face demonstration. It was provocative. It was trying to, it's basically just hubris, but it's also very provocative. They're trying to provoke tension between the U.S. and Russia, not just pull the Ukraine out of Russia's sphere, but the Crimea is vitally important to Russia because that's their access to water, to the Black Sea.
Well, it would be like Russia stirring up a revolution in Canada or Mexico. Mm-hmm. Or even you could think about it, if Scotland gained independence, it would be like Russia stirring up a revolution in Scotland targeting England. It's that sensitive because the Ukraine is fundamentally linked to Russia historically. It's been part of Russia for the majority of the past 100 years, of course. And as you said, this leaked phone conversation, the media treatment of it was the fact that Newland said, F the EU. And that's what all the headlines became about. Oh my God, she's saying F the EU. That wasn't the story. The story was they were picking by name the future leaders of Ukraine in the overthrow, the coup d'etat that they were planning. And now we see that that's come to pass, even though Russia started this counter-revolution against it as part of the new Cold War that is emerging, the NATO encirclement of Russia. Now that that's come to pass in its first stage, the IMF is circling the wagons. Its vultures are preparing to swoop on Ukraine to asset strip the country as part of their tried and tested IMF riot plan, as Greg Palast exposed back in 2001. And today, the Associated Press reports that the IMF is sending officials to the Ukraine to start discussing with the Ukrainian authorities which policy reforms would be required in exchange for an emergency loan program. So in other words, again, just as they did in Greece, this is about turning Ukraine into the IMF, the globalist debt slave, by creating the loan shark environment where they have to sell off infrastructure. They have to impose draconian austerity measures, high taxes on their population, as happened in Greece, and install technocrats in the government who basically serve as puppets to the IMF, to the globalists.
Globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com.